Hello again, my loyal viewers and newcomers alike. I am Dark Zaz, and this channel is dedicated to exploring theology through history and philosophy. I am not here to attack or discredit anybody's beliefs, only to broaden the conversation and encourage thoughtful, open-minded dialogue.
Disclaimer: this script draws on mainstream historical scholarship, early Mormon documents, and critical textual analysis. Some points reflect majority academic views, others remain debated among LDS and non-LDS scholars. This is not claiming Joseph Smith was consciously deceiving followers, or that Mormonism is fake. Rather, it explains how Joseph Smith's life, revelations, and theology evolved over time, and how later tradition standardized a far more complex and human story. For deeper study, consult sources such as Richard Bushman, Dan Vogel, Grant Palmer, and the Joseph Smith Papers Project, and contemporary eyewitness accounts.
In the official story of the Latter-day Saints movement, Joseph Smith is a humble, unlearned farm boy who was visited by an angel named Moroni and given gold plates containing the history of ancient America and its story of pure divine restoration. But for historians, Joseph Smith didn't emerge from a vacuum. He was a product of a very specific time and place. The burned-over district of Western New York in the 1820s, a land of religious ecstasy, folk magic, and a national obsession with the origins of the Native Americans. Today, we're looking at the gap between the prophet of restoration and the Joseph Smith of the historical record. Years before Joseph Smith spoke of golden plates from an angel, he was known in Palmyra for a different kind of gold seeking. Smith was a practitioner of money digging, or treasure seeking. Using seer stones, special rocks he found while digging a well, Smith claimed he could see buried Spanish treasure or ancient artifacts hidden in the earth. In 1826, just a year before he claimed to receive the golden plates, he was actually brought to court in Bainbridge, New York, on charges of being a disorderly person and an imposter related to his treasure digging. To a believer, the seer stone was a tool prepared by God. To a historian, the Urim and Thummim used to translate the Book of Mormon was a continuation of a folk magic tradition Smith was already deeply involved with. The cornerstone of the faith is the first vision, the 1820 account of God the Father and Jesus appearing to Joseph Smith in a sacred grove. However, the official version most people know wasn't written until 1838, nearly 20 years after the event. Historians have found at least 4 different accounts written by Smith or his scribes, and they don't all match. The earliest account in 1832 mentions only the Lord appearing and focuses on the forgiveness of Smith's sins rather than a commandment to join no church. Like the paper trail of the Gospels, we see a story that grows more elaborate and theologically significant the further away it gets from the actual date of the event. Perhaps the most significant collision between Smith and history is the Book of Abraham. Smith claimed to translate this text from ancient Egyptian papyri he purchased from a traveling mummy exhibition. He stated it was written by the hand of Abraham himself. At the time, Egyptian hieroglyphs were still a mystery to most Americans, but today we can read them. When Egyptologists finally examined the fragments of papyri that Smith used, they discovered that they were common funerary texts. The Book of Breathings, dated to the Ptolemaic period, thousands of years after Abraham. The text on the papyrus had nothing to do with Abraham. This creates the ultimate historical tension. Was Smith translating in a literal sense, or was he curating a new mythos using ancient artifacts as a psychological trigger? In the curated version of Smith's life, his marriage to Emma Smith is the central romance. But the historical record reveals a much more complex and controversial reality: the secret introduction of polygamy. Historical evidence shows Smith married as many as 30 to 40 women, some of whom were already married to other men, and some as young as 14. For years, these practices were denied publicly while being practiced privately. This shadow biography is what eventually led to the destruction of the Nauvoo Expositor newspaper, Smith's arrest, and his eventual lynching by a mob in 1844. In 1843, a year before his death, Joseph Smith was presented with another set of mysterious plates, the Kinderhook plates. These 6 bell-shaped brass plates, etched with strange characters, were supposedly unearthed at an Indian mound near Kinderhook, Illinois. and brought to Nauvoo for Smith to examine. According to the journal of his scribe William Clayton, Smith translated a portion of them, declaring they contained the history of a descendant of Ham through Pharaoh, king of Egypt. This seemed like another divine translation, bolstering his claims about ancient records. But here's the twist. The plates were a deliberate hoax. 3 local men, Wilbur Furgate, Robert Willey, and the town blacksmith, forged them using acid-etched brass to trap Smith and expose him as a fraud. They admitted the scheme years later, and scientific testing in 1980 confirmed the plates were 19th century fakes, not ancient artifacts. Smith didn't produce a full translation or declare it scripture, and some argue it was just speculating based on similarities to Egyptian characters from the Book of Abraham papyri. But the incident starkly highlights the vulnerability of his revelatory process. If he could be fooled by a hoax or appear to translate it, how does that square with his other claims? It's a raw example of how Smith's environment of treasure-seeking and mysticism could blur the line between inspiration and invention. Joseph Smith was undeniably a charismatic genius who synthesized the anxieties and hopes of 19th century America into a new world religion. The curated prophet is a man of singular divine purpose. The historical Joseph is a man of his environment, a treasure seeker, a creative translator, a high-stakes risk-taker. Whether you see him as a medium for the divine or a brilliant folk magician, the historical records show the restoration was far more human and far more messy than the Sunday school version suggests.
Thank you all for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you in the shadows that history has tried so hard to forget.